Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we are joined by Luke Jordan, and it is just a really cool interview. If you are looking for a story, a website story that's laced in drama, ups, downs, near failures, and everything in between, you're going to love the story that Luke has for us. Um, Luke has a website that recently hit 1 million visitors in 1 month. Broke $40,000 of revenue that month, but it has not always been an upward journey. As a matter of fact, less than a year ago, this very site had its traffic go down by over 80% in the December 2020 Google update. And so Luke joins us today to share the story of how he took this site from basically near bedrock all the way to where it's getting over 1 million page views a month and has since gone on to do even better. He talks about all the different decisions he had to make, how to evaluate a site that has been massively impacted by an algorithm update, how to decide strategically what to do going forward and how to improve it. He talks about how he made the risky move to actually redirect the site to a new, fresh domain that was far more brandable. It talks about how he did a site redesign and invested in a site that looked better while still operating really fast. And he talks about the new writing process he deployed and how he improved the content quality. We talk about how he built links because links were very important, and some of the link building campaigns he did. And we really, the whole interview is centered around this concept of going all in on your site and what types of decisions you have to make along the way if you want your site to grow to large numbers. So it's a really fun interview, and I just really appreciate Luke's candor throughout the whole thing and in sharing a lot of the details about this site and what an accomplishment it's doing so well now. And he talks at the end about where he's going with it and what is next. So give it a listen and enjoy. Today's show is sponsored by Ahrefs, an all-in-one SEO toolset. Do you wish you could get more traffic to your website from Google? Well, half the battle is understanding what you need to fix on your site first. One route is to hire a costly consultant, but we've all been there, we've all done that, and there is another way. What if you could get a professional website audit for free without having to deal with the salespeople or the consultants? And that's the power of Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. It's a free resource that's going to help you prioritize the optimization opportunities on your website, which in the long run means more Google traffic. You'll see which keywords your pages are currently ranking for. It helps you understand how Google currently sees your content, and probably most importantly, helps you discover what changes you can make and how those changes will help you blow up your traffic. Imagine what this could do for your business in the long run. So I use Ahrefs every single day at my marketing agency. It's a fantastic tool, really love it. You can learn more by visiting ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. And again, it's a free tool, and we've included that link in the show notes for you. Again, go ahead and visit ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. Thanks again to Ahrefs for sponsoring today's episode. Welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by Luke Jordan. Luke, welcome on board.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you're here. So we've got a good one here. We were going to be talking about, obviously your backstory as a website builder, but I think where we'll probably land for a significant portion of the conversation is this website that you've been all in on for the last year or so. But before we kind of tackle that, give us some background on your journey into website building.
Yeah, sure. I mean, before we get started, I tweeted out like a month or two ago and said like, "What's the Joe Rogan podcast of SEO?" And people definitely replied saying Niche Pursuits. So it's good to be here.
Well, that's wonderful, man. I never heard it referred to that way before, but that's a shining compliment.
Yeah, doing well. I'm one of those people that probably aren't like a lot of people that you have on the show, I'd imagine, because from what I've heard, there's people that tend to like randomly fall into making sites and doing that sort of stuff. And I guess it's kind of similar for me, but I've been making websites, not that I'm a web designer or developer or anything, but just playing around with websites and stuff for as long as I can remember, even like when I was like 10 or 11, like as a real young kid, just churning out like really simple websites. Or like I learned to code HTML on Neopets playing with my cousin, which is some really
Wow.
crappy kids game. But then like, I didn't go to university. I just went straight into employment, and my first job was like SEO,
No
which I
kidding.
didn't have a clue what it was at the time, but it was kind of like the full range of uploading products to a website, merchandising them, photography, writing blog posts, writing press releases, doing the email marketing, answering the phone. Like it was everything, and link building as well, mainly.
Wow.
Um,
How long ago was that?
so that was like 12 years ago,
Okay.
11 years ago, something like that, maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe 11 years ago.
So SEO looked a little bit different back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was like our resident Google Penguin expert. Definitely not an expert, but I remember we got hit by Penguin on the site that I worked on, and I started telling all the bosses that we've been hit, and they were just like, "No, we haven't. It's fine." And I'm the only person that works on this site. We've definitely been hit by something. They're like, "No, it looks fine to me," and I'm like, "I see these graphs every day.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?"
If
And
you've
then a
been hit
few
by a
months,
penguin update, it definitely doesn't look fine.
yeah, and then like I don't know if it was like 6 months later or a year later or whatever, the main website of that company got hit. And then they came to me and they were like, "Oh, yeah, you know that thing that you said all those months ago? Like, can you help us now?" But yeah, I've been through a lot of changes in the industry, many failures. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong that
I
I've
think
had to clean up.
that's encouraging though, because you've seen so much at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Certainly not as much as some people, but for the average like SEO person, like 5 years in the industry or whatever, I've probably seen a little bit more, but probably not quite as smart as well. So
Are you still working for others, or are you on your own right now? That was a mouthful.
yeah, I've been on my own for about 5 years,
Okay.
but yeah. So that first job was in house, obviously like an in house SEO role, and then I went and did agency and started up a small site while I was in the agency that ended up going really well. And like some people still follow me for the random stuff that I used to share on there. And I ended up selling that site at like 2 weeks before COVID lockdown, which is like the first time I ever feel like I've had real luck in business. Like, because it was like, it was about sports or like related to sports. So like
Oh,
then all
geez.
sport got cancelled and stuff. So obviously I felt a bit guilty for the buyers, but I mean, it was just pure chance.
I was gonna say you didn't know that all sports were gonna be canceled for the
Yeah.
next year plus or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hopefully there's a start to rebound. And congratulations on the exit. That's great.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I've certainly
Um,
wasted some of the money.
did did you? I guess when did you get the idea to start building websites on your own? I mean, you talked about how I don't remember if you said like 5 years ago or something, like you've been on your own for about 5 years, but when did site building become the thing? And I guess the second question there would be, you have this history of agency and of doing SEO for companies. Like, did you ever consider going down that route instead?
Um, just to cover the second one first, you mean like have I considered having clients myself?
Right. Yeah. Like client work or working
Yeah,
for another agency or things like that.
I've done bits of client work, but it's certainly not for quite a long time. Um, as for like getting into starting sites, I don't really remember an exact time because it has genuinely been something I've sort of
Yeah.
always done. I've like always just played around with stuff. I remember when the first like real site I remember um, was like an AdSense site when I found out what AdSense was when I was like 10 or no, maybe like 15 or something. And I just posted up a bulletin on MySpace and said, can you all just click on the adverts on this site, please? And they all clicked on it. And I got like £90 and then got banned on the same day. And I was like, oh, what? I was like, and I tried complaining to them, like, no, I haven't been getting everyone to click it. What? Like,
What are you
obviously, the
talking
click through
about?
rate, yeah, the click through rate was like 500% or something because everyone was clicking multiple ads. But when I got that job in house, it was like a technology company. I've just kind of always been someone that's like all in on everything I do. So I'm working for a technology company. I was like, oh, I should start a technology blog. That would be fun. And like I put a technology blog up and I started a YouTube channel that was like around phones and stuff. And like I remember putting blog posts up that was like the best phone cases for this new phone that was coming out like the next day. And it happened to rank #1 in Google for like best, I think it was called the HTC One, I think was the phone. So it's like best HTC One case. I ranked #1 on release day and I made like $300 or something on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then like 2 days later, I didn't rank for it. And I just gave up. I was like, oh, it's never going to be $300 again.
And that was that.
Yeah, that was that. And then there's kind of a few years of repeating that same thing of seeing initial signs of success and not following it through or not like putting my foot down on the accelerator. I always say there was always distractions or always just, maybe I fluked it. But yeah, never really a set time where like I was like, oh, niche sites, this is something I should get into. I just remember hearing about people doing niche sites and I was like, oh, that's what I do.
You're
already.
Like, I already do that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Someone finally named it.
Yeah.
Well, your success with the site you sold, I guess let's see, that would be early 2020 then. What kind of, we don't need any exact numbers or anything, but like what kind of exit was it? Was it a pretty small one or was it one that gave you a lot of lift for future projects?
It was low six figures. That's like what I share, not mind-blowing amounts of money, but at the same time, it was more than enough to keep me comfortable, like pay me a wage for however many years, I don't know. And I think the main thing it gave me was time to work out what I wanted to do. And I didn't really realize it at the time that that's what it was giving me. But there was certainly a lot of trying out different things and seeing what was right for me. I spent time trying to grow a YouTube channel and I spent time buying up other sites. And I started seeing quite a lot of success short term on buying sites of other people, optimizing them and just seeing the money like go up a lot the next month. But unfortunately, that was like 2 or 3 months before the Google reviews update unofficially released, because I stick to a belief that it didn't release when they say it released, which was I think like April of 2020, and I believe it released. April 2021.
2021, yeah.
I believe it released December 2020 because that's when I saw all of my Amazon sites go down, and it's when I saw a number of other Amazon sites go down.
2021 was quite the weird year of updates. I'm just going to jump in there because I know for my site, they had the summer updates, right? Wasn't it June and July? They announced both updates at the same time. They said, we're releasing one, then we're coming back with another one. I don't remember the reasoning why they did 2 back to back. And I saw minimal movement on my site or any of my competitors.
Yeah, it was the core update, wasn't it? And they were like, oh, actually, we're going to do half of it in June and half of it in July.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we'll just do half now and half. I'm like, well, why? Okay. Well, neither did much to either me or any of my competitors. And then I think it was like a month later in August, all of a sudden, unannounced, all of our sites went up or went down. And it was just so bizarre, such a bizarre year of a lot of updates, announced updates that didn't do much, unannounced updates that did a lot, announced updates that did a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was a good year for me related to updates, which was a real relief after many, many years of just every update just pounding me into oblivion. So
you've been doing SEO long enough, and I started getting into SEO when this was still the case. When it was, if you were building sites, we'll call it white hat, like you weren't using dodgy link building or spam or article spinning. If you weren't doing these things, like updates never really affected you, right? Like that was how it used to be. And nowadays it doesn't even matter. Like your site will, go up 20%, go down 40%. It's so much more intricate now in the last couple of years, these site updates. And even if you're building everything right, you're still very likely to get knocked by an update or two during a site's lifetime.
Yeah, like back in the day, all I ever remember is if you did SEO, you went up.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, like, oh, you optimized the page, you'll go up.
Yeah, there was no going down until I can't remember the exact update.
Yeah, but I know. I feel like it turned around the Medic update in 2018, but that's just, I don't know why I feel that way. There's absolutely no science or data behind that.
Yeah. Well, Penguin was the one for me when that first rolled out, where I was like, "What? You can do this wrong?" Like the company I worked for, they had like a really shady link building tactic, not like as shady as Super Black Hat, but they were just doing like product review links. So they would just email, or I would email loads of bloggers and be like, "Do you want to review this product? We'll send it to you for free," and then link to our category page. But they would always say like, ask them to link to the category page after the review's already live. And then they'd be like, "Oh, I'm not adding that in." Like if they ever said, "I'm not adding that in," which was rare, to be fair, most of them just added it in. But then they would say, "Oh, well, tell them if they don't add it, then we'll invoice them for it."
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is so shady. And then eventually they got hit, and no one works for that site that I used to work on anymore. So
Well, maybe it's it was a long time coming, maybe.
yeah.
Well, let's transition. Let's talk about this website that you're working on right now. I caught up on it with your YouTube video that you did a little while back, reviewing the progress of the site, and the numbers are very, very attractive. Certainly eye catching would be a great way to put it. This is a site that I don't know how old it is. You'll have to tell me. I think but it's about a year old, maybe a little longer than a year old now, and you grew it to 1 million visitors in a month. And I think the revenue was over 40K in that month. And I mean, what a fantastic story. And I can't wait to just dive in and hear all about it. Before we get into some of the specifics about how you're doing it and some of the tactics you're using, maybe just give us some backstory on this site and how you started or acquired it, and just get the ball rolling on this project here.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you've really hyped it up there. I'm struggling to not smile and be like, wow, it really is all that. Like,
It
I've
really
done
is.
something
Well,
good.
that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, well, I did something good. No way. Yeah, so I don't actually know how old the site is. Certainly quite old, a few years minimum, but I acquired it in May of 2021. Sorry, my timeline's... No, 2020, of course. May of 2020, roughly around there.
Okay, so right after you sold a couple months after you sold the other site, and COVID, I think that was right when it was, really launching and ramping up.
Yeah,
so
peak of lockdown. So I sold my site in February, had all this money, like started buying sites of other people and stuff. So this is one of the many sites that I bought during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And carried on working on all of them, started seeing some success. And then in the December, everything just went to almost nothing. Like our income was basically nothing. And
was that kind of update related, like Google update related?
Yeah, what I think was the initial reviews update rollout. And
that was a painful update, by the way.
Yeah.
I know that one.
So the project we'd actually started a few months before. It was, I can't remember. So it's July the 7th was the first day a post went live on this particular site. As I say, I had many sites at this point, but on this particular site, I was like, I've got this idea. What I'm going to try and do is see if I can grow a site that I have almost no involvement in. I'm just going to train other people, not just to write articles and format articles and stuff, but to do the whole process of finding their own keywords and writing the posts and uploading them and publishing them and editing them and literally everything without my involvement other than a bit of strategy and a bit of guidance. So that had started in the July. And by the December, just before the update hit, we'd started to see like real signs of success just doing info content. So when we'd bought the site, it was 100% Amazon affiliate, getting about 100 visits a day. In the December, it peaked at 7,000 visits. So we launched our first post on July the 7th. And a few months later, it was over 7,000 visitors a day from organic. Then the update hit and we went down to like 1,000 a day or something.
Oh, that's brutal. Okay. That was a good, that's not just a 20 or 30% drop.
Yeah. And that was one of the nicer, that was one of the nicer drops. Some of the sites that I had were down to single figure visits a day. Sorry.
Oh, that is demoralizing.
So I had like a few months of trying to work out where I go next. Like my business has gone up in flames, really. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened that this site, one of many, was the one that I was like, I think this is something I could work on long term, but it would need to change a lot. And my mental position at that point was, this is my last chance. I've got a bit of money in the bank left from the sale, but certainly I don't have enough to go investing in loads of projects. And it really was like a Hail Mary play, in my opinion, of just, let's just put this money in and see what we can do. And ultimately, when it doesn't work, I wasn't really like, if it doesn't work, I was more like, when it doesn't work, I'll just go and get a job or start freelancing or whatever. And yeah, from that December, I think we actually started working again in like the February or March. I had to get rid of the writers that were working on it, or most of the writers that were working on it. I just kept a bit of content going live. But eventually, after a couple of months, I reached the decision that I was like, right, we're going to redesign the site. We're going to rebrand it. We're going to improve all the content we were putting onto it, because whilst I think the strategy was all right in terms of the keywords we were targeting and stuff, the quality of the content was probably a 7 out of 10. And I was like, if I'm doing this, I'm doing the best we can do. I think it's the best content in the industry. I'm biased, but I'm like, we're going to put the best stuff we can possibly do. The website's going to look really good. It's going to have a good brand name. We're going to get links. And yeah, that was that redesign went live in May of 2021. Getting, I don't even know how much traffic. I really can't remember the numbers now, but not very much, really.
It hadn't started recovering really that much yet at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it hadn't done anything. It had just continued trickling downwards. And then we launched the redesign. And in October of 2021, like 3-4 months later, we hit 1 million visitors. So it was just absolutely crazy. We'd gone from 6 months before thinking, I'm going to have to pack this in, I'm going to go and get a job. I still have a job application saved in my drafts on my email. So every time I open up my emails, it says drafts 1. And it's like a motivational thing for me. It's like, there's that job application. Like,
wow.
This is how close you were to.
That storyline has so many interesting twists and turns to it that are unexpected. I mean, first off, that you had a site that lost that much in traffic from an update like the December one, which that was a bad update, but I mean, you lost like 80-90% of your traffic. The storyline, that you chose to go kind of all in on this site that had just gotten pummeled by Google, and then the absolutely dramatic turnaround that it had. I mean, last Christmas you were going to bin it off, and this Christmas, you were celebrating 1 million visitors to the site. This is all the same site and all within 12 months of each other.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
I mean, I was worried there that I was just rambling on with so many figures and dates and stuff, but at least you picked it up. Hopefully people listening.
Well, I take notes. That's the benefit. If I don't take notes, but no, I think that the storyline is unique. I'll say that. And I think that it's worth pointing out how unique that storyline is. And obviously we'll dive into it, but I guess I wanted to double down on it because a lot of people abandon projects after it gets hit by a Google update. I've been guilty of it before as well. It's just so demoralizing to have your hard work go into it and then have it get knocked. And I think there's also a component that if you haven't been doing this for a while, you can feel like, well, obviously I'm not good at it, or I'm failing at it, or this site is a failure. And hearing a story of recovery it's a really good reminder that with time and effort, and obviously it's not like you just waited and it rebounded like this. Like, it sounds like you really put a lot of effort into it. You really upped the content game, the quality game, but this story of recovery, I think, is also great. It's one thing that you got to 1 million visitors. It's another thing that you did it on the back of a massive, of getting swept up in a massive update. So,
yeah, it is definitely a unique situation. What I will say, I completely agree that a lot of people struggle after getting their site whacked in Google. But for a lot of people, they don't understand why their site has been hit. And for good reason. A lot of good sites get penalized, and not penalized, but they get demoted in search or whatever. And they're like, what have I done wrong? I don't really understand what I've done wrong. I had actually been speaking for 2 or 3 months in like public videos, or probably on Twitter, knowing me, just saying, I don't really like what I'm doing. I'm seeing great results in terms of buying sites of other people, and improving them from a financial perspective and from a traffic perspective, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I knew the sites weren't great. I tweeted about this earlier actually and said a good sort of measure of whether you're going in the right direction with your site is, would you want to buy your own site? Like
Oh, I
these,
saw you say that. Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was it's a really good point. Like, are you building them for SEO, or are you actually building sites you're proud of?
yeah. So these sites, I wouldn't buy them off myself. So why would Google value them as a good site if no one would ever want this site?
Yeah.
So it was like when that update hit, it wasn't as if I was scrambling around thinking, what do I do? I knew the whole time that if I was ever going to make a project for the long term, it would have to be super clean, super white hat, done to the best of my ability. The only doubt I had was, could I make it happen, or could I make everything fall into place?
I think when you're sitting there in after the update happened in December and you're evaluating where to put your time and your energy, and you're evaluating why this site dropped, and then you're evaluating the rest of your portfolio, and you came to a decision to A, pursue this site out of all of the rest of them, and B, go all in on this site versus maybe going, splitting your time or your finances across a couple sites. Like, how did you determine that? I think a lot of people have several sites. I think a lot of people are faced with prioritization, and I think a lot of people struggle, like you talked about, with when maybe a site or two goes down. How do I know whether to double down, or how do I know whether to, just keep dipping my toe in the water on this site?
So the decision eventually to do what I did came from the fact that that first post went live in July. We'd hit a reasonable amount of traffic in December, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but we didn't put ads live. I never went with like AdSense or Ezoic. I waited until we hit the media buying threshold at that point. And I really can't remember. I'm going to say $1,000 or something for the November before the update hit. It was like $1,000, or maybe it wasn't that much. Maybe it was like 800 or 900, but it was positive for 4 months in at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, right, out of all the sites that I have now, firstly, main priority, what site would I want to work on? Mm-hmm. And it was in the most interesting niche. I was just like, well, this is the most interesting site. It is the biggest niche as well. Like by far, all the other sites I had were like really very specific, like as people would be recommended, like pick a super small niche and try and branch out over time. This one was specific, but it had the potential to be 100,000 pages in the future. So I was like, the niche is massive. I really enjoy being in the niche. And we've seen results before with average content. Could we see results again with good content? I had no idea, but it just made sense to try.
One could see a path to it.
Yeah.
I guess at that point.
Yeah, with the other sites, I don't know if I could make high quality content about boring stuff. I'm really jealous of the people that can, because there's a lot of money in a lot of boring stuff.
Right. Yep.
And less competition. People don't like making boring websites for the most part.
Well, let's talk about when you decided to go on this site, and you teased it a bit. So I was going to ask you anyways, but you mentioned it. So now I really want to talk about how do you evaluate what was going wrong? You've talked about how you mentioned earlier, hey, I don't think people necessarily know how to figure out what is wrong with their site. You've talked many times already about how the content was average, was a 7 out of 10, wasn't good enough, about how you were going to invest in really good content. Like, how are you making these determinations? How did you determine what went wrong and that you needed better content?
It's hard when I've been in the industry so long that you just have a gut feeling for this stuff. But one of the things I did was I tried to make a list of everything that big sites do. I was like, what if I want to be a big site? What do big sites do? And therefore, what should I do? Like, if I want to be a big site, I should act like a big site. So one of the things was like the brand name. We had like a generic name that a lot of sites had similar names to us, or even the same name as us, because we were .net. So other people had the same name as like .com and .co.uk. And the name was just generic. So I was like, right, I want a memorable name. And I should say, if people have drops and stuff, it is a fairly good recommendation to try and wait it out and try and improve things. Don't just go, right, I need to change the domain and I'll redirect everything. Definitely don't rush into doing that. But I'm silly.
But you did.
Yeah, I've had a history of gambling problems in the past, and
you didn't mention you also did a 301 redirect to a new domain in all of this. That's the story the plot thickens.
Yeah, so I did buy a new domain that was fresh reg, like I never registered before. Managed to get the .com, the .co.uk, everything else that was worth getting. Redirected to that. The site was just basic generate press that a lot of affiliate sites had. So I had a custom theme made on top of generate press, so it was still like fast, but certainly doesn't look like a typical generate press site. It looks,
right,
I think, looks really good. But I'm biased. But also, I've been very open in the past about my other sites in saying this is crap. Like, this looks terrible.
This looks awesome.
I think, yeah. So I think the site looks good and it's fast. It's got a good name. As for the quality of the content, our quality was all right. It wasn't terrible. So it wasn't as if I was looking at terrible content. I was like, oh, this can easily be improved. But there were always just little things, like a couple of the writers that we had before on the cheaper end of the scale. They weren't amazing, but I was just like, well, they show up and they do the work and I'm not involved. So I'm happy enough with that. We're seeing results. Why change it?
Right.
Unfortunately, had to let some people go when they're only freelancers, obviously, but I had to just say, like, I can't give you any more articles for the time being. But when I came back to hiring new people, I was like, I should really get better writers and really invest in training the quality of content side of things, like formatting and SEO, and just trying to put as much stuff together so that it now means I actually really don't like bringing new writers on just because I have to do a lot of work. I'm like, for every new writer I bring in, I'm going to train them up and be like, whenever you leave working with me, you're going to go and get a better job. You're going to have a lot more knowledge than you have now, or you're going to be better at what you do. Just blowing my own trumpet, I think I'm a good starting place for someone's writing career.
Because of the amount of training that goes into it.
Yeah, and I should also say, I've been getting a lot of people message me recently about wanting to write for me. Please don't message and ask, because it's such a specific niche and we're only like hiring experts at the minute. So they're experts in the content matter. I just teach them how to format it and how to write for the web and how to do SEO. And it's like 99.999% that you won't have the required expertise. I hate saying no to people, but I keep getting bombarded and I feel really bad. And some people take it really badly. And I just feel terrible. I'm like, I'm trying to help. I'm just being honest. But
if you're hiring experts, they got to be an expert in the space. That's a pretty good reason, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really curious about the idea of evaluating content and the differences between it being up, say, average to above average to really good to great. It's such a difficult thing to evaluate. I guess I keep using that word. I mean, we had Kyle Roof on a couple, I guess, many months back now, and he was talking about the way that Google looks at content and the way that it evaluates quality, and then the way that we look at content and the way that we evaluate quality, and it's a really interesting topic to try to determine, hey, is my site, does it have a good enough quality to rank number one for the keywords I want, versus do I need to publish 10 out of 10 content to rank number one for this? It's just such a deep dive,
Yeah. So now you've said that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's reminded me of the main thing we did, which actually, in terms of content quality, it was relevancy. So we had like 400 or 500 posts on the site, and we had about 40 or 50 categories. So whilst some categories had loads of content in, some had 1 or 2 posts. And whilst they started doing well initially, when the Google update hit, I was like, actually, maybe it's not good to just have such a scattergun approach. It wasn't multi-niche or anything. It was all heavily relevant to my niche. But I was like, going forward, if we want to launch a new category, we have to have 20 pieces of content minimum. Otherwise, it's not enough for a new category on our site, because we want to show topical expertise. We want to show Google that we know what we're talking about on this matter because we have 20 articles on it, or probably more like 40 or 50. So that was the big thing for my site. I ended up culling a load of content.
You delete? Okay, you deleted some of the content. You mentioned that in your video, actually. Yeah, would you delete like 100 or 200 posts or something like that, right?
Yes, somewhere between 100 and 200. And I just went through, and it was a decision based on the criteria for what I wanted us to cover. So I was like, so for us to really be able to focus on what we want to do, I was like, this is the topics or the type of topics that we cover first and foremost. And then I was like, I'll just check, has it had 100 visitors or more in the last few months? So I was like, if it was not quite the right topic for us, but it was getting a load of traffic, I didn't want to delete that. But if it wasn't topically relevant to where we wanted to be and wasn't getting traffic, then yeah, I ended up removing it and redirecting.
We had this conversation recently with someone, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer, but I'm going to throw it out at you anyways, because we talked about it. I don't remember which episode recently, where, you know, a lot of people, when they start building their websites, and I'm guilty of this too, by the way, you kind of, you get all the different topics that would work in your niche. And then you go after just the lowest competition stuff. Right. And so sometimes it can be a little bit scattered, like it's not as focused as maybe getting the topics in your niche and breaking them apart into the categories that they belong in, and then saying, okay, well, category A, only a couple of these articles are super low competition, but I'm going to write all of them in this category before I move on to my next category. And it's kind of this dichotomy that gets created when you're starting a site, because do you go after just all low competition keywords that are in your niche, but a little bit more wide, right? And then more broad, or do you really double down on a certain cluster, you might call it, or a silo, and just write everything in there, even if it's, some of them are so competitive, you'll never rank for a couple of years anyways.
Yeah, I prefer like the dominate approach of go after every keyword, even if you're not going to rank for it. Just again, from a relevancy perspective, I'll try and think of a random example there. I'm not very good at this, but like, let's say you want to write an affiliate post. I'm really not a big believer in affiliate content that much at the minute, especially like Amazon stuff. But let's say you wanted to write an affiliate post about like specific window cleaning products, but you don't have a post that's, or a guide that's how to clean a window. And this is a really terrible example, right?
No, you're never going to rank. I bet it would be almost impossible for a small site to rank for how to clean a window. So
yeah, you're not going to rank for how to clean a window, but it doesn't make sense if your site doesn't have that, but to have a really specific post about very niche window cleaning products. It, you know, again, yeah, bad example, but hopefully.
No, I think you're right. Like in the example, if you're a home website and you write about cleaning windows and cleaning, you know, you talk about windows and shower doors and sliding glass doors and car windows, and, you know, and then you start bouncing all over the place, and you write an article about, you know, how to clean oak trimmed windows in winter.
Yeah.
And then the next article is how to clean the windshield wipers on an F-150. And pretty soon you're right about a lot of low competition keywords, but the relevancy is super diluted. I think I totally get your point. What you're kind of saying is, hey, you got to write that article on how to clean windows, or how to clean interior windows, or how to clean windshield wipers, you know, and then, then you can also build out the silo with the low competition keywords. So
I think there's definitely value in content that you don't think you can rank for and don't think you will get traffic for. My line of thinking is, well, in 5 years we'll rank for it.
Yep.
Maybe you probably won't, but
maybe you will with your website. I don't know. You should never say never with the site you have going right now.
No, there's a lot of big players in my
are industry. There? Well, so you know, bringing us back on track here, you had this site, and you made the decision in February, March 2021 to go all in on this one. Started that process by committing to upping the writing game, the content game, the quality game. You got rid of a bunch of articles, 100 to 200 articles. How many articles were on the site at that point? You know, how much of the site did you end up deleting to kind of reboot it?
I'm really bad at remembering exact numbers, but I did tweet and video again about there was a breakdown of all the numbers, but if I remember rightly, for the year we had like close to 1,000 posts, but I did remove about 100 to more like 150, I think, was like the number we removed. But obviously, it wasn't like 15% of the content, because we removed it all at the start of the year, and it took us the year to write that much.
To
So
make up to it. Yeah.
it was like 25% of the site, maybe. It was
Wow.
a bit risky, but we weren't getting traffic anyway. So I was just like, let's just get rid of it.
Let's just get rid. Well, like you said, the criteria basically ended up being, hey, is it getting traffic and is it relevant? And if the answer is that it wasn't either, wasn't relevant and it wasn't getting traffic, you were comfortable taking it down in that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then you did the redesign. Didn't that come out around the same time or soon thereafter?
So the relaunch of the website all happened very quickly. There was like a lot of things that I'd done behind the scenes to get everything going live at the same time. So we put the redesign live, redirected, I think the same day. I'm pretty sure it was the same day. So new design, new name, new brand, social profiles going live. Didn't like outreach or try and make a big deal out of us launching, because I think that's a mistake a lot of beginners make, is they think people will care about their website, and they don't care about your website. They only care about the guides that you have when you show up in Google.
Yeah.
For the most part, again, not
fairly
not always
transactional
true.
relationship in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't need to try and have a big reveal for your new redesign or anything like that. I've noticed that's a trend. Like, websites will email you and be like, we have a new design. It's like, I don't care. You've just emailed me and wasted my time. Anyway, that's a tangent. And we had like a link building campaign set up as well to launch straight away, like digital PR style, to try and get attention and stuff. That one actually just was a massive fail. It didn't go anywhere at all. But yeah, we had the redesign and the rebrand go live, and then launched another campaign a few weeks after, and ended up getting a load of links. So in Google's eyes, all of a sudden we've got this new website that looks better. The engagement was way up. It was faster, and we had a load of other big websites talking about us all within the space of a month. And we had like a good post on Reddit as well that ended up getting like 20,000 visitors or something. So they could see all these signals from different places that were all looking good all of a sudden.
Right. Okay. Well, it clearly worked really well, and clearly, I mean, it sounds like you were getting some initial signals that, hey, this project might work out. Because at this point, again, I don't want to drag you back into the mire of it, but I mean, at this point, you're still in this situation where your sites have gotten creamed by the algorithm update. Nothing's really recovered yet, and like you were saying, you kind of had enough funds to go all in on really only one project. So it was probably really good to see it starting to have some life again after you went to all this effort at that point.
Absolutely. Like I said it earlier, one of my biggest mistakes that I've made multiple times is giving up on things too early, or more importantly, not putting my foot down on the gas when there's a good sign. So we relaunched the site, and next day I could see traffic was up, and like 3 days later traffic was way up, like double what it was a few days before. Still not what it was in December, November of the year before, but compared to where we'd been for the last 3 or 4 months, it was like, well, this is going all right. So I was like, right, we should get another writer back if we can. Money's fast running out at this point. I should point that out.
Jeez.
And I was like, well, let's just try. We'll put some more content live. But it started to head in the same direction that it was going before, where it was just growing really quickly. So I ended up selling the other sites that I had, or some of them were so bad I couldn't even get rid of them. But some of the sites weren't too bad. So I was just like, I'm just going to try and get what I can. I sold one site that was like $20,000. I actually put about $20,000 into it, so I didn't really make any profit on it. But that
you got 20,000 at the time, you got the 20,000 back.
Yeah, so I remember being like, right, that's 20,000. That's all going into the project.
Good grief.
Like, kind of committed to it. So at that point, yeah, we're running out of money. I'm selling everything we've got to try and put the more money in, because I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again.
Not even the cat feels safe in the house.
Yeah. I was like, if it doesn't work, then I definitely can't say I didn't put my foot down. Like, okay. I tried.
You are redefining the phrase "all in."
Yeah. I was taking out. Well, I didn't take out a loan, but I'd put all my chips in, and then I was grabbing money off other people's tables and putting them in as well. Like,
yep, to take it out of your pockets from last night.
Yeah, I'm obviously in a fortunate position in terms of I don't have kids and stuff, so I don't need to worry about those responsibilities. But I don't have a pension Like, I don't have a single saving for future life. So there are definitely risks. Just
Right.
I didn't have to worry about ruining the family if everything went wrong. And I worked quite hard over the last few years to put myself in a position where if everything did go wrong, someone out there might hire me or someone out there might pay me some money to help them. And that was a very conscious effort. Like, people were always like, why are you making videos and why are you trying to help people? Because I don't sell anything. And I was just like, well, I like doing it, but it's kind of an insurance scheme as
Yeah.
well, or an insurance policy if everything goes wrong. And I was kind of like, if it does go wrong, it'd be funny. I was like, I've got a funny story to tell. Look how stupid I look. Like, I put everything into this and it didn't work. What an idiot.
Well,
And that could still happen. That could still happen because I'm still trying to just, like, the revenues are good,
yeah.
but I'm still trying to spend more than our revenue.
Still.
Yeah, still. I mean, it's hard after the really good month we had, but
you got to work at it. Well, talk about, I mean, I don't want to fast forward through it all, but let's just talk a little bit tactically about what you did to get the site to where it was in October, which is a $40,000 month or higher, whatever it ends up being. I should let you actually tell us, but and over 1 million page views in a month, which is crazy. It sounds like a big content push. You mentioned 1,000 articles or so. You mentioned link building. I don't know how much link building you did on the site. You mentioned the new redesign. I don't know how much other on-page types of things you were doing, but maybe just from a tactical standpoint, kind of walk us through what the next 6 months or so looked like from February, March to this culmination, this milestone moment that October had.
Yeah. So as for design and stuff, I was pretty confident that every post we published now with the new design was going to look good enough. That our writers get their own images and stuff, so the posts look decent. They're not the best, like, SEO people and marketing people. They make amazing looking websites. This isn't a marketing level website, but it's certainly a nice looking site that is, I would say, better than some of the top publications in my industry, which has some really, really massive players in it. So, sorry, my cat's pulling up the carpet at the door. I'll just start banging.
Wait for my dog to start snoring here in a minute. So.
Yeah. Distracted me. Where was I?
Design. Every post looks good enough.
Yeah.
Above
So
average,
the posts look good.
Yeah.
And we were in a position where the writers were being trained well enough so that they knew what they were doing. They knew how to find keywords. They knew what we were covering. I had a very strict list of criteria. It was like, these are the topics we cover. So you can write whatever you want. Like, this is how to find the right keywords to go after. This is our criteria. This is how we format and upload and all that stuff. And I do work with people long term. So that's one of the unique parts of my model is I don't use the content mill that most people use of write a brief for a writer, upload it to a site and pay whatever rate to get, and then get it back and then give it to an uploader who formats it and get it to an editor. Like, I don't do that. I train people up so that they own the process of creating content and they get that sort of pride of actually publishing themselves on the site.
So your writer basically finds the topic, writes the article, figures out what goes in the article, formats it on your site, finds the images, does the internal linking, presses publish, and off to the races for another one.
Yeah, and they get analytics access as well sometimes, so they can even see the traffic that they're getting to their stuff.
Wow.
And
that really is all. They get a lot more access than perhaps the average writer would.
Yeah, definitely. And I try and, for like our content creation process, we're in a pretty good place. It was really just a simple case of get more writers to do more of what we're doing. And I looked to do that as much as we could, but we certainly didn't have an unlimited budget. I already said, like, money was running out, and $20,000 is good, but I do take a wage. I have one employee, or I had one employee in the UK here at the time, and freelancers, and we'd invested in design and content and stuff, and I didn't want to spend every penny in 1 month. But I was trying to bring in more writers and just get more content live. As for link building, we did go for the digital PR route of trying to create something worthy of sharing. I'm always aiming for like viral content pieces, so things that will interest people or will intrigue them or even make them angry. So the first content piece that we had to go live straight after the redesign, it failed massively. And then one day in the shower or in bed, wherever I was, where I have my best ideas, usually when I'm trying to get to sleep at night, and I'm like, oh, that's something I should work on right now.
Right.
I had this idea and I was just like, that is going to work. I was like, that is going to get so much attention. And I was like, it's a good idea. It was like a progressive idea, I would say. So I knew it would get a good reception, but also there would be people angry about it at the same time who aren't
Mm-hmm.
perhaps of like a progressive mentality. I just knew it would press buttons in the right kind of ways. I certainly don't think I wasn't like out to annoy people because, as I say, I think it was for the greater good. But yeah, we do invest into trying to create content that people will share and hopefully not be angered by. But when some people are angry about it, they're going to share it. Some guy with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube made a video about it, like
Oh my.
ranting. So it really got out there. And we were landing links from our competitors, really. Our competitors, big newspapers.
Wow.
And they're the perfect links to be getting.
Yeah.
So we just did that a few more times. And fortunately, out of, I think we did 5 campaigns. I think 2 of them did extremely well. No, three of them did extremely well. One of them just did all right. And one of them totally failed, which is an extremely good success
I was
rate.
gonna say, I think any website builder would take those. That overall success rate any day.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and say I'm amazingly good at this. There's a lot of luck involved, and I've done this for clients when I was in agency and stuff, and I've seen more failures than you can imagine. So I know there's a lot of luck involved in such a good success rate, but it's a small sample size, like 5 pieces of content. If I did 50, maybe we'd only have 5 that were any good. But fortunately, we've had 3 that were good already. So we already picked up a lot of links from.
So clearly, both the content push and the links were a major factor in this site kind of taking off. It sounds like you got a lot of great links, a lot of links more on the earned side of things, right? And they were really high quality links. And then obviously, you pushed pretty heavily to get to 1,000 articles, especially with how much you had deleted. And I mean, you made a really healthy content push, focusing on this high quality plus some healthy link building campaigns as well.
Yeah, so our target was to hit 1,000 at the end of the year. We actually didn't hit it. We were like 980 or something like that. But
so close.
Yeah, so we had like October and maybe it was September or November, one month either side of October, where we'd published 130-ish posts from memory. So that's like 25% of the posts on the site in 2 months. So we definitely had a big push at the end of the year, and then a little bit of a lull in December. Output was a lot lower, although I did give everyone a break over Christmas and stuff. And now we're at the stage where I'm like, I didn't realize it could get this big, or like, well, that's not even true, right? I didn't realize the traffic and the revenue could be so good when we've done so little. I was like, there's still so much for us to cover. Like, we're just such a small site.
Wow.
That we really are a small site. And I don't want to make out that I'm bragging about revenue. I always try and point that out, that we are, or so $42,000 was record month in October. That was obviously a very profitable month, but we had many months leading up to that where we weren't profitable. I think September maybe was the first profitable month. So we had like a month of good profit, a month of amazing profit. And then November and December were both good, but not October's level good. And now with the RPM drops that come in Q1, we're already back to break even, or maybe even less than break even. In fact, definitely less than break even, because I'm hiring. I think I've got 8 writers on trial at the minute. So
I think it's important to point out, because you see these flashy numbers, you see these revenue numbers, these page view numbers, and it's like, man, I mean, they don't outwardly show the investment level, and the investment, you've invested incredibly heavily. I mean, if you're talking about how even September's earnings being close to October's were barely above break even, you're obviously investing tens of thousands of dollars a month into this site, it sounds like, and you're continuing to do that even after you've hit that first milestone.
Yeah, I think the rate that we got up to before me hiring now, I never have exact figures. I'm not a businessman. I just make websites and try and have fun, and I hope everyone else has fun while they're doing it as well. But like rough calculations, I think we're at like $15,000 a month of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So 42,000, obviously, that's a great month. But when you've had 8 months of spending that much without any income, basically, there's a big hole.
You got a little profit to catch up on for all the expenditures you've been putting in.
I should point out it wasn't 15,000 spent for 8 months because we only started ramping up to that amount once it started going better. But yeah, from what I can tell for like financial forecasts, which were pretty much done in like 5 minutes of just, well, this is how much we earn and how much I think we'll make. I think we'll break even for the year. So that it's certainly not making $40,000 a month, and I don't want to sit here and pretend that it is, because it's definitely not that. But yeah, I ended up hiring. In fact, I'll save that. We can move on to like what's next if you want.
Well, good. I want to know what's next. I want to ask you one more thing because I haven't asked it, and people will ask in the comments if I don't ask it, because they're going to be curious. What's the breakdown? You mentioned that you are more of an info monetized by ads type of model here, not as much affiliate, but let's maybe take the month we've been talking about, the $40,000 plus month. Like, what's the breakdown of ad revenue versus affiliate revenue?
So I should say as well, I come from Amazon affiliate, or for the last year and a half before this, I was like 100% Amazon affiliate. This was an 100% Amazon affiliate site when I bought it as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that. That's right.
Revenue breakdown for October was like 41.6K ads and like $600 affiliate.
Okay. So basically all ads for rounding error.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
All ads.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is an entire. I mean, I'm just doing the math on it. If you had roughly 1 million visitors and you had 40-ish thousand, I mean, that's an RPM of like $40. That's really good.
Yeah. So I said that November and December weren't as good, and it's basically because we had one category on the site that just, I don't know why, I still don't understand it, but the RPM was just crazy. It was like $70-$80 on a lot of the posts, which for some niches is not that good, but for my niche, it was amazing. If you're like
finance or things like that, right? Like those have higher RPMs, but for the average niche, that's an insane RPM.
Yeah, and then once November came around, we weren't getting as much traffic for that, and the RPMs dropped as well. I still have no idea what was going on. But
is there a seasonality component to this site? I'm just curious. Like, is October maybe also a high season, or do you expect kind of a flattened seasonality to this site?
So December actually beat October for traffic.
Okay.
But not for revenue. Nowhere near on revenue. In fact, it was less than November for revenue, even though November had the lowest traffic out of the three. So there's definitely seasonality, but the seasonality in most niches is Christmas is more busy. So
Q4 is busier online.
That is the seasonality. Christmas is busier, but not anything unusual or out of the ordinary in terms of seasonality, I would say.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about where you're going now with this site. I mean, first off, or I've already said it once, but congratulations. What an accomplishment. And again, the backstory, I feel like we could make a movie about this. Probably nobody outside of our industry would watch it, but I bet everybody in our industry would watch this movie because it's just layered with drama and intrigue throughout the whole course of it. So congratulations, especially considering all that went into it. This is a site that, yes, is getting 1 million page views a month now, but it's also a site that was done and dusted a year ago, got nailed by an algorithm update, the 301 redirect of the whole. I mean, this site is really an interesting and fascinating story, and clearly a measure in perseverance. So congratulations. What is next now for where you're going?
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't going to plug anything, but if I can plug, I basically did make the movie on my YouTube channel. So if you want to if you want to watch the most boring movie you've ever seen,
is that the 30-minute one about the site?
Yeah.
It's good. So, it's good. I will include in the show notes. It's good. It definitely goes into a lot more depth on some of these topics than we had time to go into today as well.
Yeah, so I'll get that plug in there. As I say, I wasn't going to plug. I don't really plug anything, but that's
you put some good dramatic music in there too, by the way. I like that.
Thank you.
There is some dramatic pauses. I mean, I agree. Actually, that does capture the drama pretty well.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about me plugging stuff because it's embarrassing.
No. Go,
What,
go, go.
what's next? Funnily enough, I still want to make an affiliate play, even though the ad revenue is crazy. I don't know if this is just my history of being an affiliate, or I mean, I really think I can't avoid the feeling of, well, if we did rank really highly for these affiliate terms, we would make loads of money. And I do want to diversify as much as I can, but in terms of what other people class as diversification and what I now class as diversification, they're not the same thing. So my diversification is, well, I'm still just going to carry on investing everything in this brand, but now we're going to have a YouTube channel as well. Well, we actually have two YouTube channels. So I hired 2 full-time people to just make videos. One is like 100% affiliate. And I think this is an interesting topic because I actually hired him kind of with the impression that it wouldn't make any money directly, or maybe it would make money. I'm not really sure. I don't know how many people go to like the YouTube description and click affiliate links and stuff. But the main reason that we're making the videos, and really annoyingly, by the way, about the Google review update stuff, I had all this stuff, these ideas that I wanted to do to make a good review site. I was like, right, so we're going to have a full-time person making review content, and his only job is to review products really honestly, make them entertaining, and we put those videos into our articles to show that we've actually tested the products and stuff. And maybe, who knows, long term, we can actually rank those articles because of how trustworthy they are. So the articles might rank and make money, but the YouTube videos might not make money themselves. But
they're there to help the articles rank in this theory.
Yeah, that's my theory. But I came up with this list of stuff that I was like, this is what a good affiliate should do. And about a month later, Google revealed it themselves. They were like, oh yeah, here's what everyone should do. And I was like, well, yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm thankful to know I was on the right track. Yeah, but now you've let everyone else know what they should do.
Thanks for letting the entire world know that now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so that's kind of our next play, is trying to make YouTube work. When I started the website, or when I started the website project, obviously I didn't start the site in the first place. I bought it off someone else. I didn't know what would happen. I was just like, well, let's just try it and see what happens, and maybe it'll work. And that's where I'm at with YouTube now. Yep. One is affiliate, one is info. So the info content one, that is hopefully a revenue play, eventually, to get a load of views and a load of subscribers and make money from ads or brand deals or whatever. The affiliate one is, as I say, maybe a lost leader to rank our reviews and not make money directly, but indirectly help the brand. And it's a branding play as well. Even if they both don't make any money, but they get loads of views and people talk about us, that might long term be all right. I really don't know. Well, it's mostly just a bit of fun.
I mean, it's a good lead in for what was going to be kind of my last question on my list here. But I mean, the potential for sale down the road, would you consider selling this site? And I mean, I haven't sold a site ever with a YouTube channel, but I know from the various people we've talked to on the podcast here that having additional streams of viewers or revenue, whether it's an email list, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether, these other things, they add value to the site. And so they increase, the effective purchase price at the end. So even if, it just ends up being a great brand play for the brand you're creating and nothing more monetarily, it probably would help you for a future sale. If you're interested, would you ever sell this site?
I mean, I certainly started it with the intention of one day selling it.
Yeah.
Also, I don't see me selling it anytime soon. I like running sites, and I like running this site, and I like the industry. And as much as I'd love to take a bit of money and run, I would also love to make stupid amounts of money. And the only way I will make stupid amounts of money is by taking risks and trying to take it as far as it can go. I don't know, but there will always be those things where I'm like, well, we could also do one of
I'm leaving
an email list.
If I sold it now, I'm leaving some stuff on the table.
Yeah, so I would never. Well, I don't say never, but I wouldn't want to sell it until I knew or I felt that I'd done everything I could. And I want like a strategic acquisition. Is that what they're called? Where like a competitor buys you and you get like some obscene multiple because they have other benefits of buying it on top of just the revenue.
Yeah.
That's what I want to aim for if I ever sell it. And it is part of the plan to sell it, but
yeah, not anytime near on the near horizon.
yeah, it's not something that I'm looking to press on with. That's for sure.
For someone who continually says that, they don't plan and they're not paying attention to the numbers, you have a pretty good plan in mind, in my opinion. you, you have a lot of it worked out pretty well. I think it's pretty smart.
Yeah, I'm just like, well, let's just throw money at this and see how far it goes, and that's basically the plan. But,
well, I mean, I'm thinking about my own site, and I can't help it that like my site that I have. I mean, I run an agency for my day job, but I have a site on the side that does all right, and it got hit by the December 2020 update. And I'm just watching myself throughout this entire interview, just keep going back to it because I definitely spent time looking at it, trying to figure out what went wrong. I definitely invested in it. It's doing a lot better now. It's doing now a year later or more than a year later. It's doing much better than it was before the update hit, and it's all great. But I didn't go all in, and I didn't take anywhere near your approach. And I'm just wondering how much I've left on the table as a result of it. Like I think your approach is perhaps the thing that's holding many of us back from the really big successes that we dream of.
maybe, but there's so many factors that come into play.
Fair enough.
People's
Yeah.
tolerance for risk. Like I said earlier, like I've had gambling products and problems in the past. Like
you do seem to have a high tolerance for risk. I will give you that.
Well, I've just had like, I don't know how many times where I've had literally every penny I own on a casino table and lost. So
yeah.
to lose this, like it's a plus EV play, I would call it, like the expected value. Even if it doesn't work, the expected value is positive. And if it did all go wrong, I have fallback options. That isn't for everyone though. I do agree that, yeah, maybe most people that do this aren't ever going to get a 7-figure exit or an 8-figure exit. Like I haven't had those either. I would like to. But my approach is obviously more likely to achieve a 7-figure exit. It's also more likely to lose me everything that I've got as well. So,
well, perhaps the moral then is you don't necessarily, each of us could probably push a little further than we're at right now. I think perhaps the moral or at least a lesson I'll take from this is I don't need to go as all in as Luke, but maybe I should be pushing myself a little bit further out of my comfort zone than I am right now, because maybe some success lies in that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend going crazy, but something I really like that my friend did recently, he spent on his site that's going really well, he ended up spending $30,000 on new content. At that point, he was like, I'm really nervous. I'm spending $30,000. It's everything that the site has. Like, it's everything we've got in the bank for the business. And I'm spending it on content. It's going to take us 3 months to make. And I was like, well, how much revenue do you get? And he was like, well, $10,000 a month. And I was like, so it's going to take you 3 months. It's going to cost you $30,000. And after 3 months, you're still going to have $30,000 because of you earn 10 grand a month, right? You're still going to have the same amount in the bank as long as everything doesn't go wrong, which it can. Yeah. But the interesting thing now is, after all this time, he can see the traffic increase he's had from that exact expense and the revenue increase he's had as well. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's something like he spent $30,000 and now he makes $5,000 a month more. Yep. So that's an insane ROI. Like, yeah, I always think of real estate or property. Like, I don't know what it is with multiples in this space, but if you make $3 grand a month, you could sell your site for like 100 grand for a somewhere ballpark figure. If you bought a house for 100 grand, you're not getting 3 grand a month in rent, or not even anywhere close. Nope. I know the risks are different and stuff, but it's crazy. And you see that ROI so fast as well.
And the multiples are only seemingly going up, certainly the last couple of years, they've been going up and up and up.
Yeah, hopefully that continues, but who
Well,
knows?
Luke, I mean, we could chat about this stuff forever. I feel like, where can people? Where this has been such a both educational and inspiring interview. So thank you for coming on board. Where can people follow along with you? I know Twitter and YouTube is where I keep up with you. Maybe share your contact info on those platforms and any other places that people can follow along.
Yeah, I really appreciate having me on, and yeah, I could talk about this stuff for like weeks. So I do apologize for rambling at points.
No,
I don't really have anywhere to, like, I just tweet a lot. So LR_Jordan on Twitter. I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm not making any videos for the time being. I'm not doing anything that isn't my project for the time being. I just want no distractions. That's one of my New Year's goals was to not buy any domains this year.
Oh boy.
Like no domains, no new projects, no client work, no videos. Maybe I might make the odd video here and there, but
I hope you keep us up to date a little bit on this project. You know, a video here or there, maybe maybe a summertime video you could squeeze out for us.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to. I do try and just tweet like graph porn or whatever. Just people look at the graphs and they're just like, "Wow, that's a crazy graph," and I'm like, "I know, I can't believe it's my graph."
It's going up and to the right, up and to the right.
Yeah, and I do share the ones that go the wrong way as well. I should also say that all the ones of it going down and everything going wrong, I do try and always say it as it is. Right now, things are going well. It might appear that I'm boasting, but when it's going bad, I say that it's going bad. I tell it as it is, and that's just what I try and do on Twitter and YouTube.
Well,
they're the only places really.
Congratulations on it going so well right now, and clearly, it's deserved given the amount of hard work you've put in and the amount of effort you put in here, and the investment you've made. So yeah, it's good to see that happen when you go all in. So congratulations again, and yeah, thanks again so much for coming on board. We'll hope to catch up with you again soon and hear how this project is going.
Yeah, cheers, man. Well, thanks again for having me, and yeah, hope people enjoyed listening to the story.
Again, a big thanks to Ahrefs for sponsoring today's podcast. Ahrefs is an all-in-one SEO tool set. They help you get more traffic from Google by helping you understand what you need to fix on your website. Now, you could hire this out to a costly consultant, or you could go and hire an expensive audit agency, or you could use the power of Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. It's a free resource. It's going to help you prioritize those optimization opportunities on your site. In the long run, that's going to lead to more traffic from Google, which is a good thing. The tool helps you see which keywords your pages are ranking for, helps you understand how Google is seeing your content, and helps you discover how making changes can blow up your traffic. Imagine what this could do for you in the long run. So again, thanks to Ahrefs for helping us with the podcast today. And you can learn more about this free tool by visiting ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. Again, that's ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools.